Shout out to Royal A. Shepard of the Basement Sports Network. Now, usually his opinions are completely invalid because he literally just started watching Heat basketball when his boy Myers Leonard got to the team. But he did have a banger of a tweet in which he said, he ain't that good anyways. Miami never really wanted him. We have Kevin Love. Oubre is still out there. Orlando Robinson season. I can't even say that one with a straight face. This is why we signed Thomas Bryant. Are we really losing our minds over Christian Wood? If you watching this have found yourself saying any of those things within the last few days, then
stop it. Get some help.
Thanks, Michael. Listen, of course, the Miami Heat lost out to the Los Angeles Lakers on acquiring Christian Wood. Now, he's a guy that many Heat fans, I feel comfortable saying the majority, wanted on this roster, including myself, although there was some eerie similarities to another former Heat player that many of y'all don't like.
Big emphasis for you showing a consistent motor, because I know that's maybe something scouts have questioned. And do you think that's a fair assessment?
I have a great video about that if y'all want to check it out. But basically, he seems to be modern day Hassan Whiteside, at least off the court. And if you've been watching Heat basketball for a good amount of time now, you understand what that means. So as much as I like Christian Wood here, because I certainly think he provides a fit on this team that would be nice, I'm not sure that I wanted to deal with all the off the court stuff, because hey, all of his former fan bases hate him for a reason. And usually as a guy who focuses on Heat basketball, how other fan bases react to a guy leaving, that's how I kind of view him. And a lot of Mavericks fans were happy that he's still not on the roster. So anyways, that being said, where do the Miami Heat pivot from here? Well, if you look it up, their active roster, they currently have 20 guys, which I think is the maximum for the off season. But that includes all the training camp deals like Justin Champagne and Alondes Williams, a bunch of guys that you probably never even heard of. And for some reason, it still shows UD on the roster. Maybe it's because his retirement doesn't officially become official for some time. But regardless, they got 20 guys on the roster technically. But now if you remove those training camp guys, you have 16, but that's including the 3 two-way players in Jamal Cain, Jamari Bouye, and Drew Smith for some reason. But if you remove those two-way guys also, you're left with 13 players, which means that there's 2 more roster spots open. Now, this is the official current Miami Heat depth chart according to ESPN. I don't necessarily agree with what they have. I think I would slide Caleb Martin into the starting 4 spot over Kevin Love, and I'd move Tyler to the 2. And I probably would. No, I wouldn't start Kyle Lowry. Y'all know my thoughts on Kyle Lowry. Whopper, he's a mother flopper. But give or take, this is some form of what the Heat starting lineup could look like. So if you're looking at their depth, right away I see 2 glaring weaknesses. One is the point guard spot, because you got Tyler Hero as a starting point guard, and if y'all remember that experiment, it didn't go well. And then you got Kyle Lowry as the backup, who ended last season not great, and as a guy who's obviously aging, I'll leave it like that to keep it nice, I'm not so sure that he's going to be any better this season. And then the other glaring weakness is something that they've been trying to fix for years now, which is the power forward spot. I really liked PJ Tucker when he was here. I do think that was a big loss, although I do understand it. But hey, Caleb Martin played a solid role last year, but still, at his size, he does have his deficiencies. And obviously, an aging slower Kevin Love has the same. And then this specific depth chart obviously shows Nikola Jovic and Jaime Jaquez, who are young guys, so we don't necessarily know for sure what we're going to get from them. Now, again, this is assuming no Damian Lillard. We will kind of look at what this might look like if the Heat do get Damian Lillard later on in this video. So what I did is I pulled up the best remaining free agents after Christian Wood signing. This is according to Hoops Wire, and currently we're looking at the point guards. So we'll kind of go through each player, and if I have a thought, we'll talk about it for a little bit. So you got Ryan Arcidiacono, who I can't believe is only 29 years old. I feel like I've been seeing him play on Chicago years ago. Solid player. Same thing with DJ Augustine, just obviously a little too old. Michael Carter-Williams makes no sense because he can't shoot, and which is crazy considering if y'all remember his first career game was against the Miami Heat, and he had damn near a quadruple double, but he's not any good. The next 2 guys kind of irrelevant, and then we get to a guy that I'm very interested in Goran Dragic. Now, I want to temper expectations if Goran was to come here, because I do think it's a likely possibility. It's very clear he's been wanting to come here. He even deliberately said that in some interview a couple months ago. He still goes to all the games and such. And the reason I would like him here is because he knows the system well. And I think he can provide a solid 10 to 15 minutes a night when necessary, or play 20 minutes a game for a spot 2 or 3 games throughout the season if Tyler was to get hurt or Lowry was to get hurt. I think he's capable of that, and I think just being back home where he's truly happy, I think he will be able to thrive, unlike the last couple stops he was in, like Milwaukee and Toronto and Brooklyn. So I do like Goran Dragic, and if the Heat only have 2 roster spots with the roster as is, he is one guy that I would like to see on the roster. You got Trent Forrest, who cares, George Hill, of kind of similar to, I guess, DJ and Goran Dragic, guy who was good at one point in his career, but still too old for me. I know Dragic is old, but if you're going to go old, go with the guy who is a fan favorite and would be happy here. I think that would help his performance. A couple more irrelevant guys, and then you got Kendrick Nunn, who looked like he'd be great. Hey, dude was second in Rookie of the Year when he was with the Miami Heat. And then, of course, he took a pay cut to go to LA to win a championship. That team sucked, and now he's pretty much nothing. Part of me is interested if he could come back to the Heat and somewhat rejuvenate his career. I mean, hey, Goran Dragic's not playing defense. Neither is Kendrick Nunn. But at this day and age, Kendrick Nunn is probably the better player. I don't necessarily hate him, but I just don't think he's the best option here. A couple more names you see at the end. Ish Smith, who I still actually really like as a player. If Goran wasn't available and didn't want to play and feel like he could play, which Goran said he can play 15, 20 minutes, I probably would take Ish Smith from this list. Older guy, but still 35, which I think is young enough to play a small role as a backup point guard. He can do a little bit of everything. He has a ton of experience, and I feel like he always kills the Heat at random times, and I've kind of always liked him because of that. John Wall, wanted him a year ago, but when he's not on the Clippers, I heard Clippers fans not all that sad that he left, and like I said, I usually judge how other teams' fan bases view a guy, and they're not fans of John Wall. And of course, he's not a great shooter either, which really doesn't fit what I think you need on this team. So the best remaining true power forward spots, and again, we'll talk about the centers a little bit later in this video. Hoops Wire only has, 6 of them. Diakite, he's okay. Isn't that the guy from Virginia with the colored hair? Wenyen Gabriel, who's straight, is very straight with the Lakers last year. I don't think he'd be a bad fit here. I like JaMychal Green, another guy that can rebound and stretch the floor. Ideally, the perfect fit next to Bam. But at only 33 years old, he does seem like he's a little bit washed up of what he once was. I would have wanted him last year. I think I would have been wrong. He wasn't all that great. And then you got Blake Griffin, who can't even play on a team that needs him in the Boston Celtics. James Johnson, who I did love when he was here. And that version of James Johnson, a guy that could be a point forward, shoot, defend 1 through 4, that's exactly what the Heat need at this moment. But at 36 years old, James Johnson is a shell of that, and I don't think he'd fit great here. And then you got KZ Okpala, who I don't think is an NBA basketball player. We saw that with our own eyes. And I mean, they traded like Bol and 3 second-round picks to get him, and I'm still annoyed at that. Not that Bol is anything special. Everybody goes crazy. Oh, the Suns got Bol, blah blah blah. They gonna be unstoppable. Bol hasn't been able to stick anywhere he's been. It's because he's not that good. But anyways, I'm not a fan of KZ Okpala. Very few Heat fans are, and the other faction of Heat fans that disagree with that think he's the next Giannis. I think he's more of a Bruno Caboclo, 1 year away from being 1 year away. If you know, you know. So transitioning a little bit. Let's say that the Miami Heat do get Damian Lillard. Now, I've been on record saying I think the package will include the picks, whatever that is, and then Kyle Lowry, Tyler Hero, Nikola Jovic. I think those are the 3 players that inevitably get put in. Clarify, there's many renditions of this we could see. We could see no Tyler and Duncan Robinson's thrown in. That makes the money work. And obviously, you had some other sweeteners like Jaime Jaquez, maybe Caleb Martin. We could see the same trade and also Caleb and Jaime Jaquez trade sent in. We don't really know. But just for the sake of this video, I want to stick with you're sending out Kyle Lowry, Tyler Hero, Nikola Jovic. You're receiving Damian Lillard. So now you're sending out 3 guys, getting back 1 that opens up another 2 roster spots and gives you 4 total spots. Maybe Portland would send back guys too. Maybe we get Jusuf Nurkic and we send them Duncan Robinson. Maybe we get another lower salary guy on their roster to come over here, and then you don't have the roster space. But all that stuff is pretty fluid, because they can even cut Orlando Robinson or somebody if they really wanted to. So, but For the intents of this argument, I'm going to say they get Dame and they are left with 4 open roster spots. So I'm going to go through the rest of the positions and the best free agents available according to HoopsWire. They have a ton of shooting guards. They got Will Barton, who in theory, the idea of Will Barton is exactly what this team could need if you're sending out Tyler Hero. Very similar player as far as a guy that could come off the bench and kind of light it up. But he seems like, whether it was due to his injuries or whatever the case may be, he's very washed up. So again, I would have liked him a couple years ago, but I'm kind of soured towards that now. I'll skip down a couple names. I'll go to Jarrett Culver. Main reason being because he was a guy that was drafted really high out of Texas A&M, had all the potential in the world, balled out in March Madness, went to Minnesota, didn't do nothing. It was essentially invisible there. And we know the Miami Heat, we know their development program. A lot of times if you get guys with talent, they can make the most out of it, unlike organizations like the Timberwolves, which we saw with Jarrett Culver. But I'd be interested to see what the Heat could do with a top-end talent like that. Not saying he'd be one of the guys I'd fill the roster spot with. We'll get to that at the end. But he does at least interest me. I think Terrence Davis is a guy that could kind of fill in that two-way role as well. I like him a lot. Same thing with Hamidou Diallo. He's obviously very athletic. We saw him in the dunk contest a few years back. And the Heat have a tendency to take these athletic guys with the tangible stuff and kind of develop the other skills. You know, like Derrick Jones Jr., for example, became an improved shooter when he was here, and guys like that, I guess. So I suppose he'd interest me. You got Bryn Forbes, who is one of my least favorite players in the NBA. I'm not sure I could see him in the Heat jersey. I don't have to explain that. Danny Green actually did just resign with Philadelphia. You got Javonte Green, a guy that I like a ton. We saw him some with Boston and I think Chicago last stop. He's 6'4". I believe he actually played some power forward for them, even though he's presently listed as a small forward or shooting guard. But he's a guy that's actually able to guard 1 through 4, which is what I love, which is what Spo loves in this system. And he can stretch the floor, so I'm a fan of his. You got RJ Hampton, another guy like Jarrett Culver. He wasn't as high a draft pick, but coming out of high school, he certainly had a lot more hype. Maybe the Heat could do something with him. A few more spots down, Rodney McGruder. I loved him when he was here. Now, the Heat will need some sort of perimeter / point of attack defender, because if you're bringing in Dame, he obviously doesn't solve that. And if you're bringing in Gorham like I want to do, he doesn't solve that. You lost Gabe Vincent, who hurt. You may lose Caleb Martin, who will hurt your perimeter defense. You lost Oladipo too. Rodney McGruder is a guy that could guard on the perimeter a little bit. And as a team that wasn't great at rebounding, he's a very, very good rebounder for his position too. I like Rodney McGruder. A few names down, you got Joshua Primo, the dude that was balling on the Spurs at 20 years old and had all the, I believe it was some allegations. That guy's an idiot. Stay the hell away from my team. Terrence Ross, a name that I love because obviously he's killed the Heat as well. But I actually think he's a good player, unlike Bryn Forbes. I love him here. If you're losing Tyler Hero, he's a guy that could replace that, a little bit of a microwave scorer. He's 32 years old, so not as athletic as he once was, but I'd like to believe he still has enough to make him a solid defender in this system. So I do like Terrence Ross a lot. Moving on to the small forwards, Rudy Gay, who, like Danilo Gallinari, have almost been on the Heat like 35,000 times. I like Gay. Again, I like the idea of what he brings here, but I think it's 3 or 4 years too late. Again, very athletic, taller, 3-4, that can guard multiple positions, shoot the ball. I'm just not so sure how much he has left in the tank at this moment. Mo Harkless. Q. Do I need to elaborate on that? He is my least favorite Heat player in the history of the Miami Heat. Not only did he suck for the 5 minutes that he was here, in which he got about 19 fouls every game, somehow, but he was talking trash about the Heat when he left. Like he wasn't part of the reason this team sucked when he was here. I hate that guy. Stanley Johnson, another guy that high draft pick, didn't do much, has the theoretical body and athleticism to guard 1 through 4. He's had some interest in the Heat for some years also. Kevin Knox, a lot of those same things apply. Interested in him. You got Kelly Oubre, who of course is, I think, at the top of all Heat fans' minds at this moment. If you're losing Tyler, Kelly Oubre does a lot of what he does as far as being able to be a spark plug off the bench. Now, he's not as efficient. His IQ, I think, is worse. Not that Tyler's was great, but Kelly's is even worse. I don't typically like those players, like the guys like Dion Waiters and Gerald Green, those shot chuckers, really used to frustrate me in the past. But I do think with losing those guys that we're losing Max Strus, losing obviously Tyler Hero, I think that we will need some more just flat out scoring. It's kind of why I like Terrence Ross. I may like Kelly Oubre a little bit more, a little bit younger, still very athletic, and maybe in the system, he can turn into an above average defender, which would really make him a great player. Eric Pascal, what the hell happened to him? He was hooping on the Warriors. Then he disappeared. Matt Ryan, blew a 28-3 lead. I'm not interested. And then a couple more names. JTA, he's straight. I didn't realize he was already 30 years old, but he could provide a lot of those switchy 3-4 things. TJ Warren, a guy that I actually really like. Now, he's 30. That's not obviously super old, and usually around 30, these guys are entering their prime, but he's dealt with a lot of injury stuff. For that reason, he wasn't all that effective last year. I think with he might have been on Brooklyn or at some point last year. He wasn't great. But from what I'm hearing, TJ Warren is healthy, and if that's the case, he's a guy that can not only score 20 points a game, but we know he's a very solid defender at both the 3 and the 4 spot. I really like TJ Warren, even though him and Jimmy may not like each other. But there's been links to the Heat and TJ Warren for a few years now, and I do believe if Jimmy wasn't okay with that, we wouldn't have heard so much. I do like him. Justice Winslow, I loved him. I loved Point Justice. I was a big believer in Justice better over Devin Booker, but unfortunately he left. Things were kind of sour with the Heat organization. I think they were saying he's healthy. He was saying he wasn't. He didn't leave on the greatest terms. It seems like things may be better now. It would be nice to get the squad back with Jay, Rich, Bam, and Winslow, as they call themselves. But if I'm bringing in someone, I need at least someone that's capable of shooting the ball. And outside of one magical season, Justice Winslow cannot do that. And he can't stay healthy. This Heat team is going to need bodies. Finally, moving on to the centers, we got Biyombo, who can rebound, can't do nothing else. I'm good on that. True 7-footer and Tony Bradley, to be honest, he'd be straight. I had no idea that he was only 25 years old. He'd be straight, but I don't really think the Heat need a true center with Thomas Bryant. But you got DeMarcus Cousins, who I love a lot. I really, really want to put him as one of those 4 guys that to fill up those open roster spots, but I didn't do it just because I don't think the Heat need a true center. Dwayne Dedmon, bum. Gorgie Dang, who I actually liked a lot, but apparently him and Jimmy Butler hate each other. I forget why. You can look it up. Derek Favors, I would have guessed is 50 years old. I can't believe he's 32. Taj Gibson, I would have guessed he's 38. He's 38. That boy is way past his prime. Great career, though. Huge fan of him when he was killing the Heat back with Chicago. Ibaka, again, theoretically, the idea of him here would be great. I think he may be too washed up at this point. Myers Leonard, stay the hell away from my team. Boban Marjanovic, I would love him here. We got no size. Screw it. Bring the biggest guy in the league, man. Even though he's 35 and he would never, ever play. And Tristan Thompson, I'm not a fan of you either. So those are all of the best remaining free agents. And out of all of these players, if I had to pick 4 for the theoretical 4 open roster spots on the Miami Heat, I would go Goran Dragic, Javonte Green, Kelly Oubre, and TJ Warren. So obviously Goran, self-explanatory. The other 3 guys are Javonte Green, Kelly Oubre, TJ Warren. They're both guys that I feel like can not only spread the floor, they can get you a bucket, and they could guard kind of 2 through 3, 2 through 4 in some cases. And that's really what I like. I like getting guys that are versatile because I'm tired of getting all these one-dimensional dudes like Duncan Robinson and Tyler Hero who, if they're not making their shots, they're completely worthless on the court. I'm tired of it. But let me know what y'all think down before. If you had to pick from all these names we discussed today, who are you going with? And I do want to shout out my favorite comment from last video. This one is from my guy Orcap9521, who said, "Is it worth watching the NFL? Because I'm going to support the Dolphins if I do." And I'm glad you asked. If y'all saw my last video, I talked about the Miami Dolphins, gave a little win-loss for every single game. It wasn't meant to be serious. I mean, I had them at like 12-5/13-4 because I counted wrong. And I had several comments saying that I'm just a homer. Yeah, that was the point. The point was to get hype. It wasn't a serious analysis, but I do plan on having a more serious Dolphins analysis coming out later this week. I was very happy with that video, with how that video performed, because we usually talk Miami Heat over here. So thank y'all for watching that. And if you didn't watch it, go check it out, or check out the next Dolphin video, which I think will be dropping on Saturday, I'm thinking. And also, of course, make sure to leave y'all comments down below, and maybe I'll pick my favorite one and shout y'all out next video. If you are on the podcast side, because I'm thinking I'm going to upload this video to my podcast, Believe in Miami Heat. because I'm going to Tampa this weekend for my girl's birthday. Shout out to Maya. I love you. Happy 23rd birthday. I may not have time to record a formal podcast, so I think this is a good video. I'll upload that out there. And enough with the long ass outro. Like the video, subscribe if you enjoyed, and I'll see y'all next time. Peace out.
Look, pull up in your city, tryna get that dead face. Do it on my own, I don't need no dead weight. Had to kill him off, yeah, I need a head space. You know this homegrown bitch don't offend me.